finally back to a bit more of a normal-ish video today. As I had said, I've been dealing with a lot of health issues as of late. The latest testing I've had done came back positive for probable POTS, or postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, so that has just been tons of fun dealing with all of that. And that's in addition, I've already been diagnosed with esophageal hypersensitivity and likely non-celiac gluten sensitivity, but I basically have to treat it as if I do have celiac. So it's been a lot to deal with over these last few months, so if video uploads are a little less frequent or maybe don't always fully have myself and my face in them, that's the reason why. But whenever I do feel good enough and have good enough energy, I'd still like to get videos out, because this is a video that I have been planning to do for at least a month at this point, and that is showing my most valuable Disney pins. So in a lot of videos I talk about rare Disney pins. I've shown some of the rarest pins that I have, but with pins, rarity does not necessarily equal value. There are some LE2000 pins that are way more valuable than, say, an LE300. For instance, my most valuable pin is an LE75 that comes as a completer pin in a framed set, but its value is just really not that high because it's not particularly desirable, so to say. So I thought that this would be an especially good video to do now, because I have a lot of pins in my collection that just became a whole lot more valuable, kind of like overnight. Ever since I was a little kid, I collected Splash Mountain pins, and once they announced that they were going to be retheming Splash Mountain, people went absolutely crazy bananas with anything related to Splash Mountain. Legitimately, rack pins that one day were selling for $5 were selling for $100. Now, thankfully, those prices have gone down, but a lot of the pins that I own really went up in value. So with doing this now, I thought it'd be interesting as kind of like a snapshot, and you can look back a year or two from now and see if those pins still are just as valuable, if their value has declined, if their value has gone up, because that's the thing with pins, is that their value can always change. The value of a pin is really set kind of based on the supply and the demand. So the more people that want a pin and the less there is of it, typically the value gets driven up even more. So to find the value of my pins, what I did and what pretty much everybody does to determine values is you go on eBay and you look at the sold listings. So you can't really look at current active eBay listings in terms of determining a value, because anybody can list something on eBay for any amount. But what really matters is how much somebody is willing to pay for a pin. So since I've been planning this video for a while, these values, I looked them up a few weeks ago, so things probably could have already changed a bit in that time. But you can go on eBay and you can filter by things that have sold, and you typically find the ones that have sold most recently and kind of determine an average value of that, and that'll give you about the value of a pin, how much somebody right now would be willing to pay for it. So I don't have these pins kind of in order of monetary value. I'm going to show them kind of based on the different collections that I have, but I will save my current most valuable pin for last. I thought that I would start off by sharing the most valuable pins from my Zootopia pin collection, because Zootopia is my largest pin collection. I have tons of very rare pins in terms of edition sizes, but maybe you'll see that I actually don't have too many Zootopia pins to share in this video. But I did also kind of set up a threshold of pins having a value of at least around $100, or somewhere in between at least 80 to 100. Otherwise, if I went lower than that, I probably would have a lot of pins to share. But anyways, this first pin here is an Le500 pin from Hong Kong Disneyland. It's kind of like this cool metal. And this one has a current sold value of about $120. This, I remember, is a Zootopia pin I have had for a while. I think I have had it since at least late 2016 or early 2017. So this value has definitely increased. Then it still is so crazy to say, but I do also have a Nick Wilde Pin Trader Delight. He is an LE of 300, and his value has actually dropped quite a bit over the last few years. I could not find any sold listings for him, but the active listings on eBay I saw were between $120 to $150. And the Nick PTD formerly used to like always be above $200 in value. So it definitely has become a much more attainable pin, but still quite valuable. Then I have this Zootopia Beloved's Tale from the Disney Studio Store Hollywood, another Le500, and another one that I can't put an exact value on because the only recently sold one was unfortunately a scrapper. So you can't use that when determining values. But listed, I've seen these are somewhere in the ballpark of around $150. I think this is a Zootopia pin that definitely deserves its value because it's from a very well-known exclusive series and the artwork is so unique. This Zootopia pin was kind of on the cusp of whether or not to include it. This is an LE250 Disney Employee Center exclusive. It's a really huge, awesome holiday pin. And this one has a recent sold value of about $80. Now, this final Zootopia pin is something that I don't even have any kind of presumptive value on. I feel like I'm including it because, at least as a Zootopia collector, this is a pretty valuable pin to me. This pin comes from a Japan framed set that was sold at a Disney museum exhibit. So I think it was like the Art of Disney, the Magic of Animation. This is not a pin I have seen for sale in a long time, so no recent active listings, no sold listings. And based on that fact, the fact that it just has not come up for sale, I assume its value has to be somewhere decently high. Moving away from Zootopia pins, I have this set of Minnie and Mickey Disneyland Paris pin trading night pins. They're both Le500s and they are gorgeous because they're in this Dia de los Muertos style. I love these pins so much. I remember I got them around when they're released, but they have definitely increased in value over time. The Mickey one I've seen sold has a value between about $70 to $90. Minnie is kind of similar, but maybe a little less than that, so if you kind of consider them a pair together, definitely among my more valuable sets. Now this is a pin I was very surprised to be including in this video. I had no idea that its value had gone up, but this is a Figment space pin from the Museum of Antiquities pin event. It's an Le500 and it currently has a sold value of about $100. So one did sell for that much, there's another listed for about that much. I probably would have bought this pin when I got it for like maybe $25. It is really neat that Figment slides back and forth, but not sure why this one has kind of really jumped up in value. Now, this wouldn't be a most valuable Disney pin video without some Wdi Profile Pins, and this is the Le250 Madame Medusa pin. When I was last looking, I did not see any Medusas listed for sale or sold, so I don't actually know about what her value is. But even the lesser desirable profiles, you typically don't see them for under $100 unless they've been faked. So Medusa would probably have to be at least in the $100 to $200 range. But now we're going to switch into some Emperor's New Groove pins with another Wdi profile, and this one I do have a known value for. This is our Isma Pin, and Isma has a recently sold value of between about $280 to $320. I got this Isma and the Madame Medusa each for about $30 to $35 right when they were first released. So Isma has had an increase of about $300 in value, which is pretty neat. Another Isma pin that also seems to have gone up in value quite a bit is this Wdi Catnap. This is an Le300, and actually for a Wdi pin, it's a little bit more on the thin side, but it's such a cute series. And this Isma has a sold value of between $150 to $200. I do have some other valuable Isma as a cat pins. They are both from the Disney Studio Store Hollywood. We have a big cat Isma and then an Isma Pin Trader Delight. The big cat one has a recent sold value of about $80 and the Pin Trader Delight of about $70. I almost forgot to include this one in here. It is a Wdi gold frame Le300 pin and has a recent sold value of around $90. I also wanted to include my Emperor's New Groove Wdi cluster pin. This is an LE of 250. and it recently has a sold value of about $95. That does seem a little high for this pin. Typically it's a little bit on the lower side. So I'll be interested to see if that value kind of holds up or if it tends to slide down a bit. Then this is a pin that I do not know the value of because I have not seen any listings for it or anything sold anytime recently. It is another Wdi pin and it commemorates the Emperor's New Groove 15th anniversary. Now this is a big, thick, nice, hefty Wdi pin. So this is something that I wouldn't be able to put or know a specific value on. But with this, I'd say typically close to $90, $100. And so it can be hard to determine values of pins that have no recent sold listings or even any active listings. So with that, you'd kind of want to look to listings of other similar pins. But again, the fact that nothing has been listed in a while shows at least that the pin is quite rare and would probably be pretty desired. So now we're going to be finally moving into the end portion with all my newly very valuable Splash Mountain pins. So this first pin is a Crests of the Kingdom pin from Disneyland, which was one of the monthly limited edition releases of last year. So it's an LE2000, but this pin currently has a value of around $100. I collected this entire Crests of the Kingdom series. It's super cute. You open it up inside, but I love the sculpted metal on this. So this is kind of where you start to see that even a pin that has a little bit of a higher edition size can still have a high value. Then we have this pin from the Walt Disney Family Museum that says Zippity Doodah. I got this pin in person about 2 years ago. This pin shot up in value to about $200, but now it's settled down a little bit closer to $120 in value. Then I have some sets of Splash Mountain anniversary pins. These are both celebrating Walt Disney World's 25th anniversary. I have the regular pin from the parks, which is an LE of 1500, and this pin on the right is a cast member exclusive, an LE of 500. The regular pin from the parks recently had a sold value of about $200. I'm hoping that's come down a little bit in the last few weeks, but people were paying $200 for this pin. And then the cast member exclusive pin had a sold value of about $100. We have a similar situation with these two pins. These now are celebrating Disneyland's 30th anniversary. We have the pin from the parks, which is again an LE of 1500, and then we have a D23 exclusive, which is an LE 500. The parks anniversary pin sold value ranged in between $125 to $200. And then the D23 pin currently has a sold value of around $150. Yes, still more Splash Mountain anniversary pins that are making this most valuable list. We have a Walt Disney World 15th anniversary pin. This one is an LE of 1000, and then there is, I think it's like a Magical Milestones pin, and it would be for celebrating the Magic Kingdom's 35th anniversary. The Chippendale pin has a sold value of between $100 and $150. And this Magical Milestones pin, the back is super tarnished, but it looks like it's an LE of 2500. This pin sold for up to $375, but it's also sold for as low as $150. I don't know why people wanted this pin more than the others, but this is something where I definitely think the value will settle quite a bit lower. Then we have the two Disneyland Splash Mountain Piece of History pins. I love Piece of History pins because they do have a little piece of the actual attraction in the bubbles. The Showboat Scene is an LE of 1000 and the Brer Fox is an LE of 1500. The Showboat Scene recently had a sold value of between $200 and $250, and the Brer Fox sold pin value was between $150 and $220. I feel like Piece of History pins will be more likely to hold their value than some of the other Splash pins, just due to the really special nature of them. Next, I have this Splash Mountain pin, which is a replica Fast Pass pin from Disneyland. This is an LE of 750, and I unfortunately have no idea what its value is because I have not seen any of these listed on eBay at all. But based on the trend of the other Splash pins that I've shown, this one probably has a value that is decently up there. Then we have some Wdi Splash Mountain pins. This was released for Splash Mountain's 30th anniversary, and it's an LE of 250, and its value has been in between about $150 to $200. Then we have this Wdi E-Ticket Calendar Pin, again an LE 250. This one is themed to Splash. It's also unique because it has a very strange misprint on it. The last time I looked, there were no sold listings for this. The active listings were in between like $175 to $300, but I'm guessing there's probably been some sold in the meantime. We have arrived at our penultimate pin, one of the most beautiful pins, another Wdi of Splash Mountain. This is a gold frame pin. You can see how pretty the translucent glitter and enamel is. So much pretty sculpted detail. LE of 300, released for Disneyland's Diamond Celebration. And the last that I saw, there was only one of these, and it was listed at $500, but I do believe there was just another one that was recently placed up for auction, so I'll be interested to see what that one sells for. And now we have arrived at the currently #1 by a long shot most valuable Disney pin in my collection, and this is my Splash Mountain E-Ticket Jumbo Pin. A few years ago, I made a whole video talking about this pin because it had been a grail of mine for a while. I got it for about $55 on eBay. I was very proud of that deal because at the time, typically you'd see them for closer to $100. The pin is an LE of 500. It's like pin on pin on pin. It comes with its own pretty display case, like a super Splash Mountain grail, and people seem to be willing to pay a lot of money for this pin, because recent ones I've seen have sold for $625. Another one went for $725, and I saw there was another one that recently sold for $560. Insanely, it looks like there was an artist-proof version of this pin that sold for $1,400. So either way you put it, averaging out those values, this pin is worth quite a lot. The $55 that I got it for feels like an even better deal now. But the question is, will people still be willing to pay that much for this pin in the long term? So hopefully you enjoyed that look at my current most valuable Disney pins. I really do think that this would be a fun video to come back and revisit in a year or so and see just how much these values changed, if there's any other pins that have suddenly shot up in value, or if there's some that have kind of devalued. But with the pins that I've shown, all of them have appreciated in value. I typically have a pretty strict pin budget for myself, and I don't go over that. So it's just kind of luck that things have become more valuable over time. But if you're willing to share, let me know in the comments what is currently the most valuable pin that you own. And you know that value can also be in terms of like either fully monetary wise if you were to sell it on eBay, or just in terms of your own sentimental value for it. But thanks for watching!